We'd very much like to dedicate this episode of R.O.A.R to Andrew Stone, who tragically passed away on the 10th of September 2020. Andrew Stone was a massive Happy Hardcore fan, so if you're out there somewhere and you're listening, Andrew, this episode is for you.
Hello and welcome to R.O.A.R, the 90s Rave podcast with me, Tom Latcham and Chrissy Richards. If this podcast sounds especially good quality today, it's not because Paul Kingsize has had to work his bollocks off to make it sound good, although I've got no doubt he has done that. It's because we're using wicked new microphones and a recorder paid for by you, our very generous listeners. So thanks very much to all those who donated. And if you want to help us further improve the output, you can get involved at gofundme.com/the 90s Rave podcast. That email, or that address rather, is gofundme.com/the 90s Rave podcast.
Today's special guests were, at one point, without doubt, the biggest Happy Hardcore act and are probably the most successful act to come out of the Happy Hardcore scene.
Yeah, I'm almost certain that Chrissy was a fangirl and sang along to some of their,
of course,
should we say euphoric 90s sets and tunes. Can you guess who it is?
If you hadn't guessed, they are, of course, the one and only Force and Styles.
Yeah, hello boys.
Good morning.
George the dog is loving you
He's
being
touching
here.
my feet, funnily enough.
He will do that.
He's going to start snoring again in a minute.
It's when the farting happens, you got to...
I look forward to that. Especially the way he's aimed directly at me.
You can stay in that position.
Thank you for coming, boys. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks
Really
for having
appreciate it. You
and
guys...
thanks for spending all the money on the mics as well.
I know, which means there's no fee for you, I'm afraid. But, maybe one day it's bad timing. But you guys are, I don't know if you are, sort of currently celebrating 25 years since you first started working together as a duo. You do get less time for murder. Does that make you feel old?
Very old.
It's 25 years. I can't... Do you know what? It's the funny thing is we were speaking about it earlier, that 25-ish, we're going to make it 25 next year because 2020 doesn't count.
Bit of a write-off.
Obviously, we're going to write it off and do it next year. So, but we'll go with it for now.
Yeah, absolutely. You should be very proud. It's a fantastic achievement, but you do, as I say, get less time for murder. So this normally is a podcast about the 90s rave scene. As a duo, what moment do you each pick from the 90s that was your pinnacle as a duo, and why?
In sense of what, in total or production or DJing or
whatever. What do you view as your crowning moment as a duo in the 90s?
Wow, heck of a question. I think DJing wise, we might disagree, but Energy 97 is always my first pick.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That was a fantastic event as well.
It was mind blowing. If anyone hasn't listened to the set or any of the sets, not just ours, but that constant noise of whistles and horns, which kind of overwhelms the music most of the time, was incredible. And if anyone ever asks that question, that's always the same answer. It never changes, even though there's been other incredible gigs. DJing wise, for me, that was the one.
There was just something about that night, wasn't there? I think it's the same for everybody. When you speak to Dougal, Slipmat, that was a big moment.
What in particular?
It was. I don't know. It was just the timing. The music was so good at the time.
There was a lot of talk at the time about the scene sort of starting to die off, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And then Dave and Penny suddenly come across with Energy 97, and everyone was like, "Yeah, right. This is dying. Look at it." I mean, it was mind blowing, and I don't think there'd been anything like that for.
No, it almost felt like it was leading up to that night, even though you didn't realise it was leading up to that night, and it was just it was a fantastic time. That was.
Well, given we're on Helter Skelter, I'd actually quite like to ask you, what was it about Helter Skelter that was such a special event?
Couple of things, really. I think the fact it was at the number one venue every time, at Sanctuary and Rollers, guaranteed sellout just about every time.
Mm-hmm. I think it was still where we had a combination of drum and bass DJ or jungle DJ, hardcore DJ, drum and bass, hardcore. You know, it was like that, wasn't it? And you'd move from Rollers to Sanctuary. Yeah,
even though the logistics of it was a bit of a nightmare because everyone, as DJs changed over, they literally swapped venues. But I think it was when Hardcore Heaven did the first ever hardcore only event at the Sanctuary. That's when it all started to change, wasn't it?
And there's been talk about Helter Skelter coming back. I would have thought that you certainly would you'd be one of the very first picks for them, particularly because you used to headline those events, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
How would you feel about Helter Skelter coming back, and do you think it will?
I got asked to, along with a lot of the other guys, to post some stuff on social media about it coming back. I was more than happy to, and the rumours I keep hearing is that it is coming back. I think Majika runs basically all the social media stuff. So everything that I've heard has been coming from Majika. So until I hear from Dave or Penny, then, I'll reserve judgment, but we'll see what happens.
And do you think it would be a success if it did come back, Darren?
I should imagine so. I mean, I should imagine everyone from back in those days would want to go, as much as people, the new breed would want to go as well, just simply because they were so big, weren't they?
I think the big debate is what it will be, what music it will be. My personal opinion that it should be the lineups from them
playing that kind of music,
trying to incorporate.
It was a 90s.
styles.
It was a 90s event.
Exactly,
it should be,
and it should remain a 90s
music.
Someone has suggested that actually what they could do is they could get their artists to play their favourite sets that they played at Helter Skelter in the 90s on vinyl again. Like, from it doesn't have to be the same event, it could be a different event or whatever, but that would be quite a nice selling point.
Do you know what? Sadly, my aside from Energy 97, let's call it my favourite Sanctuary moment, is quite famous and included Junior when he did that big rap over the top of Braveheart.
Yeah.
It just come out from Her Majesty's Pleasure.
Literally that day. It was that day,
It was
right?
that day, wasn't it? Yeah. And he stood on stage.
He still had his the glasses on and even the shirt, I think, didn't he?
He
Literally
still
came
had the shirt
straight
from
out.
prison on.
Had he even been home?
I think we picked him up, didn't we? Yeah, literally took him straight up the road.
Straight to the Sanctuary. And he's just stood there and he reeled off this, what must be a 3-minute rap.
It's a fantastic bit. It's a great bit of MCing.
Yeah.
I mean, it starts
Listen, he had
off-
long enough to write what he was in there.
I think that was part of his rhyme, actually. He was talking about,
yeah.
I've been
It's
on
like, I think
the
there was-
wing and I've been working on,
Yeah, jail couldn't hold this, jail couldn't trouble this.
Yeah.
That was a big line.
Free at last, the blast from the past. Hey, still couldn't hold it, still couldn't trouble it. Back with the
And it was insane. And the thing is, it kind of starts off and you think, oh, this is quite good. And then it goes on and you're just lost in it. It's like, this is incredible. And it's just one of those moments you just never forget, really. And people just post it on Facebook now and again. I'd like to have a little listen to it, which is cool.
Well, I wonder whether you could get that. Obviously, Junior's passed away.
Yeah.
I wonder whether you could get that rhyme and get it over the music. To recreate that moment in a way.
25th anniversary tune.
There you go. It's out there. It's what we could do with it. It's badly recorded, but hey.
Maybe Darren
Unlike
could
this
sing
show,
it.
by the way.
Maybe.
Look on his face.
No.
So what was it about 90s rave music, and especially what you made, that you thought was so popular?
Well, I think the thing about the 90s which is so different. The music varied massively from the start to the end of it. And there's so much happened that it's difficult to sum it all up. Whereas, look at the 2000s, didn't change really a great deal.
No.
It found its feet and it carried on doing the same thing.
Yeah,
So-
that decade, that 90s decade, it went through a lot, didn't it?
I mean, even just if you think the difference between like 93 and 94, for example, is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Well, and even, 91 and 92, 92
Yeah.
and 93, it's crazy.
Someone made a point to me the other day on social media that actually they think that the 91 to 95 went too quickly. It changed too much too quickly, and actually there's loads unexplored, and that's why there's been a bit of a comeback recently, and Paul King Size is part of this as well, making that sort of old 91 to 95 style of music, because there's still so much scope left in it.
Couldn't agree more, but do you not find it's just looking back, you look at it and go, that didn't last long enough. But at the time, it's just a natural kind of progression. And because everything was so new, people were finding their feet with equipment and no one had a clue what to do with any of the stuff.
Yeah, everything was experimenting, wasn't it?
Yeah,
at the end of the
completely.
day.
And I think sometimes that made tunes better, that no one really knew what they were doing. So they would just throw some stuff together. And in the end, that kind of just gave music more of an atmosphere rather than maybe the technical aspect that goes into it now.
Well, the other thing as well, we didn't have YouTube and we didn't have kind of YouTube videos that show you how to mix. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I don't remember shelving any bass off in in the early 90s.
Yeah, it
Didn't even know what it
literally
was.
all chucked together.
No knobs turned left. They all went right. You just turned stuff up. And that was it.
Do you miss? It was all created on hardware and analog, and now a lot of it's digital. Do you, Darren, miss the production side in that raw way, or do you try to make it so? Or
It's a tricky one because back then, my sort of major role back then was more musical, sort of playing the keyboard, coming up with melodies and stuff like that. Paul was the technical one,
turning the knobs right,
turning the knobs right.
Yeah.
It's just when left hand didn't work.
Something's never changed. Paul.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously it's changed a heck of a lot, but you know, there was a rawness to the music then that you just don't get now. Because everything is, you know, even me, like I was saying to you before, you overthink things, but back then you didn't. You just did it, didn't you? It's like,
yeah, I often look back and think about it, and half the stuff that we did would completely experimental, would just literally turn knobs until, oh yeah, that sounds all right, you know. And the same with, we used a lot of bass station for acid sounds, and if you heard those sounds prior to knobs being turned right, you would never use it. And then you just distort the hell out of it and go, wow, listen to that. But yeah, what you tend not to be able to do, well, you need a plug-in to do it these days, I guess. Distort things, you can't do it on a desk like you used to be able to.
yeah.
So
Yeah, things have changed a lot, but
For the better.
I mean, it's arguably it's easier to make music now. Like Paul said, there's tutorials can show you exactly what to do, but you know, you can overthink things. I think this was with the Force and Styles thing. We were in it right at the beginning, and we weren't overthinking things. And arguably, towards the end of the Force and Styles sort of career, so to speak, when we were overthinking stuff, is when it went not so right.
yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think that what happened is new equipment started to be released, didn't it? And we always wanted to be at the forefront of new equipment. The problem was we didn't know how to use that equipment, and so you kind of you get new bits of kit, and most stuff with if it was piano, and it sounded great. And with these new sounds coming, they all sounded quite thin, didn't they? Remember the Nord lead and the Virus?
They were too clean.
Yeah,
they were just too clean.
Really clean. And in all fairness, we was trying to do everything we could to get a cleaner sound at the time, weren't we?
Yeah.
To clean it up.
But it just
a massive mistake.
It wasn't what the dance floor wanted.
No.
And it was
huge error in judgment, that one. But it's what we thought was right at the time. And the funny thing is, early days, everything was focused on dance floor reaction, wasn't it? Everything that we did, we just, because we used to go to a lot of parties and listen to the music, see the reactions, we knew how it had to sound. And I think later on, that dynamic changed a bit, and we was trying to make it, does it sound good in headphones? Sitting back with a beer and a pipe and just going, yeah, this sounds nice. It wasn't for the dance floor as such. And I think that really changed quite a bit.
Yeah. It doesn't help when there's labels saying, yeah, you know, this could possibly cross over, this could do this could do that. And so you're
being tempted by commercialism and money?
Because it's not happened before. So you kind of, you're going down different avenues that you've not done before. It can play with your mind because you don't really know where you should be going, you know, and there's different roads, and you can take completely the wrong ones, or you can kind of, you know, work your way into it. And we had nothing to gauge it on because it was all brand new to us. You know, everything was brand new. So
yeah, well, essentially you were at the forefront, so you were making the path essentially, and then you don't know where you're going.
I think that's the problem, though, isn't it? Because we was considered being at the forefront. We took it upon ourselves to think we need to change
forward.
it. We need to move forward.
Yeah.
We need to be the ones moving forward. And it didn't work.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
But I guess if you look at it, is that we were trying to move forward, and actually we didn't need to move forward because we hadn't. It was moving. You know, it didn't need to move that quick, I guess is what I'm saying. You know, sometimes if you've been making the same style of music for 5 years and you maybe want to make a change, fine. But we'd been doing it for 2 years. Not even 2 years, and then suddenly we were trying to progress maybe quicker than we needed to.
And looking back now, one of the things I always remind myself of, not feeling I'm not disappointed with anything that happened because it did for a reason. And, you know, it's amazing when we did it. But you look back and think rock music has been drums, vocal, guitar forever. That's not changed. Whereas we tried to change what hardcore was. And there was no need to.
What were you trying to make it?
Trance had just come in, basically. And we was kind of, you take influences from everywhere. So the early days was all taken really, I was really into sort of the early happy, big vocals, piano, house stuff. I think you probably were as well.
Yeah, no, exactly the same.
So everything was kind of influenced from that. And then trance come in. And I love trance. I think we both loved trance at the time. We used to play a lot of it, didn't we, locally? And was trying to do that. But the guys that were making it were bloody good at it, and we'd never done it before, and trying to make it work just didn't particularly work. And it took you and Breezy a few years, really, didn't it, to really nail it, to get that sort of Styles and Breeze sound going.
It's fascinating insight. It really is, and I wasn't expecting that when we asked you about just a very small question about what people remember about the 90s, but absolutely insightful.
Yeah, we're done now. That's it.
Right,
So
there we go.
Thanks for coming.
No, only joking. This is Force and Styles and a very rare joint interview here on Raw, the 90s Rave podcast. You can remember our contact details for anything at all. Hello at the 90s Rave podcast.co.uk.
Okay, you're listening to Raw, the 90s Rave podcast with me, Chrissy Richards, and Tom Latcham. We like to find out a bit more about the artists we meet in more detail than other interviews. So we're going to do our quick fire get to know you round.
Right, so we'll start off and we'll do one each, and no messing around, just quick fire, bang, bang, bang. So, right, I don't need to introduce you by name for this because this is the question. Full name?
Darren James Mew.
Paul Hobbs.
Age, Darren?
45.
50.
Don't look a day over.
50.
Where are you originally from, Paul?
Born in Welwyn Garden City, so just up the road.
And myself, I was born in Enfield, London.
Great place. Up the Enfield. So three of us. And where do you live now?
I live in Frinton-on-Sea in Essex.
I'm in Colchester.
Relationship status, that's to Paul.
Single.
I'm married.
Just about, because you had to postpone the last one, didn't you? Because it was your anniversary and you forgot.
This is very, very true.
So it's good that you did.
Yeah.
So you can now thank us for still being married.
Yeah.
For those of you out there, we had a date booked and they were supposed to come for their interview, and Darren forgot it was their anniversary.
Did you forget, or was it an over?
No, do you know what? I'm pretty bad when it comes to the remembering the anniversary.
Today is not a birthday, is it?
No, we're all good today. We're good to go.
Do you have any children? And if so, how old, Darren?
I had two girls, 9 and 7.
How long you got?
Yeah, I mean, this is it.
I have 6, age 6, 8, 11, 16, 18 and 24.
Crikey.
Jeez,
That sounds very tiring and
busy
very
boy.
expensive.
Well, like
Condoms, Paul.
Well, I was going to say, like Peter Crouch was once asked, what would you be if he wasn't a footballer? He said a virgin. I'll go with the same answer.
Darren, do you have a favourite non-dance song?
My favourite non-dance song? Oh, my goodness. On the spot. It would have to be an Oasis song because I love Oasis and band music. I'd probably say Wonderwall.
Oh, how about you, Paul?
I used to be a big Dire Straits fan back in the day. I always loved Brothers in Arms.
Good solid choice. What's your tipple?
I like quite a few different things, but at the moment I love a I love a spiced rum.
Oh, nice. Very good. Delicious.
Mine's probably quite boring, just a gin and tonic. I think that's what I usually choose apart from a beer, if I'm out.
Fair dues. Who's the most famous person you've ever met? To Paul.
That's a good question. I'm going to go, it's got to be a footballer. So Harry Kewell, possibly Teddy Sheringham, anyone. Yeah, any one of those boys.
Who do you support?
A Man United supporter. Got a funny story about that if you want to go into that in a minute. But
okay. For mic or not off mic?
No, on mic's cool.
Go on, tell it. Go on, tell it.
Darren, I've always been a United supporter, and Darren you never really supported anyone in particular, but he started following United because of,
They were
suspend
good.
them because they were good in the mid-90s.
That's because you supported him. I was sort of
Because
like,
I supported them. He'd never been to a game before, so it was getting to around your birthday, wasn't it? It wasn't far off. And we had a mate who was the manager of Oscars who had some ties with Villa players and the Villa ground. And there was a certain FA Cup semi-final replay in 1999 at Villa Park. I said, Tony, can you get some tickets? He said, yeah, of course, mate. So his first game was the 2-1 win with the Giggs goal.
When he got his shirt off. And
When he got the shirt off and the hair was out.
sexy hairy chest.
What a game.
The problem was his second game was the final against Newcastle, and then that kind of brought him back down to earth.
yeah, it didn't go so well, did it?
So you do care now, or you're not interested?
Do you know what? I mean, I'm interested, but no, I don't follow football as much as I did back then. But because when we were sort of living in each other's pockets, I was watching football as much as you were, wasn't I? So I was loving it back then.
And who's the most famous person you've ever met, Darren?
Oh my gosh, maybe Danny Minogue. Don't know.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Solid.
Split match was Kylie, right?
Was
So,
it? Oh, he
yeah.
trumped me.
She kissed him.
Did she?
Did.
It was
On the cheek, I think.
On the cheek, and she didn't know who he was. So it's not. It was on top of the pops.
Oh,
Did
brilliant.
she trip? Is that what it was? She fell over and just kind of
Sweet.
Quality.
Tell us one thing about yourself that will surprise people, Darren.
I electrocuted myself when I was 4 and blew the top of one of my fingers off.
Really? Yeah. Let's have a look.
Yeah. Oh, do I really have to show you? Is this on the camera or this bit not? 'Cause I don't
I mean,
really
you
show
could do it above the camera.
Yeah,
couldn't
it's not particularly.
okay, yeah.
Look at
Another one.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Crikey.
So basically, my granddad was changing a bulb in a light, and he did the wrong thing. He told me not to go near it, and I was 4.
Which you
and
obviously
as soon
ignored.
as literally he turned his back, and as he was getting a new bulb out, I went and thought, I'm just going to put my finger in there. So I stuck my finger in it, and yeah, literally, apparently, because I haven't really got a memory of it, but it chucked me across the room, blew the top of my finger off, and.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Jesus.
the only reason I'm here today, apparently, is because I was wearing slippers. And if I had not been wearing slippers,
right?
it'd been game over.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we never would have had Force and Styles. It would have just been Force.
Yeah.
That's a real shock there now.
Because you would have thought, actually, if anyone was going to die early, it would be Force himself.
But it's good that it didn't affect your, your piano and keyboard playing of your
did it help?
future as well.
Improved, I
Maybe.
think.
Yeah. That's why we made the tune Simply Electric.
And what about you?
Oh dear, I don't know.
I mean, 6 children
Other
is
than
quite
you've got lots
surprising,
of
probably, isn't
children,
it?
yeah.
I'm 50. I have 6 children. There you go. Well, what do you want? I mean, I when I left school, my career started as a computer technician. I did that for 9 years prior to leaving and becoming a DJ. So,
Well, Groove Rider as well was a very early computer programmer, he told us, we found out.
Oh,
So
really?
he could have been, a sort of whizzy...
maybe I should have hooked up with him instead.
Yeah, you could have been the rival to Apple or something.
Yeah.
Force and Groove Rider, that works actually. That works. Force, do you have a sporting hero?
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? Funnily enough, it's a bit of a strange one. I love my golf. Always love my golf. And it's not an obvious one, but Constantino Rocca. If you know who that is.
I do, but he's not one of the more sort of renowned golfers.
Absolutely. But I
Why?
don't know. It's that part on the 18th at St Andrews that he holds. I don't know. It's just, I always liked him.
What about you? You're not a football fan?
I don't really have a sport in here. I mean, I love sport. I watch a lot of sport, but I don't really... do you know what? I know this probably sounds cliche, but probably from the time we were watching football when I was into it, I appreciate Beckham, and I also think he's a really good role model. He's a good dad. So I'd probably say Bex.
Very good looking as
Plus
well.
the wife fancies him.
Do you have a celebrity hate?
Do you know what I did like when Big Brother was a thing? There was many people when I was watching that, because I used to like watching that would come and go in those programs that I'd actually think, oh my god, yeah, physically, really. There's not many people that bring me to those sort of emotions, but there was some people going through them that I'd be like, I really cannot stand you. But yeah, as far as naming anyone, I don't really have anyone, I don't think.
You just don't want to name anyone, do you?
No, I don't.
Too nice. Too nice.
No, honestly.
No one you just want to slap?
If I remember during this interview, I'll pipe up.
What
How about you? Cool.
Do you know what? I'm not a great fan of, and she doesn't live far from here, but Gemma Collins, just not.
You don't even need to explain why.
No,
I don't think,
there you
really.
go.
Yeah.
Just not a fan.
I
She's
don't
probably
know much
very
about
nice,
her
I
other than the
suspect,
whole
but
dancing on ice thing.
She's
obviously.
a lunatic, a dreadful lunatic.
I'm glad you said worse than me, Tom.
I
That's
think I've
okay.
met her, actually. I'm almost certain I've interviewed her in the past. One thing that you could change about the rave scene, if you could.
Funny enough, it's got to do. You posed a question to Slim. I think you mentioned it to Matt actually about this. The meeting of minds that supposedly happened.
Were you not invited?
No, we were there.
Were you there?
Yeah, we were there.
Oh,
So-
come on, you've got to tell us more about this,
Yeah,
please. Come on,
tell
because
us.
loads of listeners
Tell
have
us
said
about
you're
these famous
really
meetings.
intrigued
You'll have
about
to jog
it.
my memory because I
You
can't
don't-
really
they
remember
can't
it.
remember it. Do you know what you call me Party Boy? Yeah,
Yeah, not the one with the brain cells. that have gone.
secretly. So yeah, there was a meeting of certain DJs. I mean, most of us were there, I believe, at Slamming Vinyl headquarters.
Was that in Enfield?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm remembering it now. Yeah,
You're remembering it now. And obviously, it was during a time when the scene was taking a bit of a nosedive. Everyone's a little bit concerned about what do we do next. So we all got together, and the general consensus coming out of that meeting was that things needed to slow down. It was getting to, we go at 175, 180 BPM at the time, I think,
Yeah.
wasn't it? It was getting quite fast. And from what I recall, everyone was tasked with going away, coming up with a few tracks at an alternative BPM. Our chosen weapon of choice was about 155 BPM, wasn't it? And we've got a whole load of product sat on that and CD of stuff that we did. Unfortunately, we were the only ones that done it, I think, weren't we?
Didn't we turn up and actually play a gig at Bagley's with all of that stuff?
No, we didn't. What we did,
Cool,
his memory is
that's
shocking.
what we were supposed to do, though, right? No,
No, what we did, and I heard the...
What year was this, by the way?
this would have been like 98, wouldn't it?
1999, I think,
Yeah.
yeah. What we actually did was turn up... it was 99, because we turned up at Bagley's and we played trance. Do you recall?
That went down like a lead
That
balloon,
went down like a lead
Shock.
balloon, didn't it?
Yeah,
We played it slightly faster than it was, about 150.
Like a
155.
sort of pre-Raver Baby, Raver Baby.
Pretty
Probably,
much,
yeah.
So binary refineries, all that kind of stuff, you know. Funnily enough, we then went, I don't know if that was on the Friday, and we had another gig on the Friday, or we played Norwich on the, so I think it was the same night. I think we left Bagley's, drove to Norwich and played Waterfront,
yes.
and it went down awesome there. Went down really well.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean,
So who called that meeting?
It'd have been Grant, wouldn't it?
Right.
Grant and
Grant,
Mike,
I
probably.
think, yeah.
Slamming.
So one of the things would have changed really is something had actually come out of that, and you know, rather than a meeting that happened and nothing happened, and then everyone went back to just kind of doing, and things just at that point
Why did
fizzled
it,
out.
look, it's worth exploring this now because we're on it, and it's not a quick fire round, but it doesn't matter. But
Don't like anything.
well, no, this is fascinating, and people will be really interested to hear about this. I've got no doubt about it. Why did people ignore it, do you think?
Probably not everyone was satisfied that was the right route to go down. Brisk would be one, definitely, because Brisky was very much about speed. His sets were very much faster than everyone else.
Sort
and
of
I
given
think,
the name gives it away,
Yeah,
doesn't it,
yeah.
really?
Absolutely.
Was he
Yeah.
actually at
So-
a meeting?
yeah, Paul's there. Yeah.
Or did he say fuck off? I'm sticking to my
No,
180.
I think he was. I don't think he's one of the people that was up for doing anything particularly slow, because that's what he was about, wasn't it? You know,
Yeah.
his sets were faster, so why should he? And everyone had their own opinion. We were one of the advocates for trying to bring it down, because I don't know why we at the time we just
I guess
wanted
your
to
music
change.
was a lot more melodic, really.
But we was doing a lot of other stuff at the time as well, because we had releases on Neo and sort of trancey
We
bits
were just
and,
experimenting, basically, weren't we?
yeah,
Pretty much.
trying to do different things.
Yeah, probably looking back on it now, we didn't really know what we wanted to do.
No.
We just knew we were trying to do something different to what we had been doing.
So I think going back to the actual crux of the question, what would I like to have done it better than what we ended up doing? I mean, some of the tracks are actually all right.
Can we
but
listen to any of them?
Not now.
You just don't haven't.
But then-
You've got them somewhere.
They're hidden away in a bag.
Get hunting, Paul.
They're on that, aren't they?
They aren't. I think
You've
some
got
on
the DATs, though.
Yeah, some on CD. Yeah, I've recorded them off actually. Quite a few of them.
There you go.
There is some really good bits and some really not so
But
good
do you think
bits.
there was ever any chance that that scene was savable? Actually, given that you had the meeting, you all went away, and apart from you two lovely boys, everyone just fucking ignored it.
That wasn't meant detrimentally to anyone
but,
else.
You know,
It was just
it didn't happen. Clearly, it didn't happen. So,
yeah.
do you think it was unsavable then? Therefore,
I personally think that the music was maybe trying to go too far away from its roots. Had it just, veered slightly and taken some direction from something else, maybe, then maybe the music would have just sort of...
But it kind of did. It kind of rebirthed as that more trancey.
It did.
More trancey sound. But what it
If you're not hear that knocking, by the way, that's George the dog's tail.
That's the tail.
Yeah.
But what it took was an amount of time for people to get used to the new equipment, new production values, all that kind of stuff. And then it was around about 2003, was it, or 2002 when the
2-2, I think.
What? That is definitely the dog.
That is the dog.
Get off me.
Just pestering Darren.
But that's the change. And I recall there was, the thing is about the hardcore is that there's some very defined timelines. Happy hardcore and UK hardcore. Essentially, it's the same thing. I don't see it being much different apart from a name. So drum and bass, everyone says, it's always been drum. That's not true. You've got jump up, you've got liquid, you've got every other possible type of genre of drum and bass, all changing constantly, but it's still under the umbrella of drum and bass at the end of the day. And the other thing to remember is drum and bass took a massive downturn around the time all the Raver Baby stuff was. So all the hardcore DJs were massively busy and the drum and bass DJs were scrapping around for a gig. So there was that era beyond happy hardcore as such where it had a renaissance and came back, and it was huge, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely huge.
Just the early Raver Baby events were massive.
Yeah, that's absolutely massive.
And why did it die again?
Again, it's probably down to people's taste in music. It's down to music changing. I don't think you can put your finger on it. Otherwise, people would have learned by now.
I think the problem, and I may be wrong, and you tell me if I'm wrong, is I wonder whether everyone just tried making the same stuff. And there can be so much variation inside of hardcore. You've breakbeat, freeform, trance, UK stuff, the happy stuff, whatever. There's a range, and that's what drum and bass seems to have done well. It seems to have done. We'll do a range of things, and there's something for everybody, rather than we're all just playing the same sets. We're all the same DJs on the same flyers, playing the same things.
I think
all the time.
You've absolutely nailed it, because that was one of the problems for me, is that the same tunes were getting played by everybody, and it was just too much. It was too much of a good thing, basically.
The versatility of a breakbeat as opposed to a kick drum, though, just opens it up. You can make a track with a breakbeat that you can sit and chill to, or you can jump around to. You can't really do that with a kick drum. So 170 BPM kick drum, it doesn't really. Obviously we did some slightly different tracks that were a bit more, but they were still dance floor friendly. Apollo 13. Cutting deep and stuff like that. But I was in the gym the other day, listening to a V Recordings podcast, and Brian was doing it, and it's awesome for the gym, it's awesome for dancing to, it's awesome to listen to, and you can do so many different things, whether that is a piano and a vocal or.
Well, I was going to ask you this question later on, but as we're here, I may as well ask it now. You went down that kick drum route and stuck to it, and that was where you ended up. Was that a mistake? Do you regret doing that at all?
Nope.
No, I don't have any regrets.
He certainly doesn't now.
Well, no, he's doing all right. Still very high in that field. But I don't know. It became big for a while in that happy hardcore, and then it died off. Whereas the breakbeat, well, as we've seen with jungle and drum and bass, it's still very much on the fly.
Definitely. But it has had its moments. But the thing is with drum and bass, it's. I guess hard dance now is worldwide more since the amalgamation of maybe hardstyle and hardcore has seen it kind of. Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
it's kind of gone a bit more worldwide.
Yeah,
drum and bass is a worldwide sound, more for Europe and possibly Asia. Maybe not so much in the States. They haven't sort of taken it on board as much as they have the kick drum. So yeah, it just changes depending on continent. Really, it really does. The same with. Australia's a little different now because they have kind of taken breakbeat on a bit more of drum and bass, should I say? But yeah, it just changes from place to place, I think.
And hardcore now, seeing as we're on this topic, what do you think it could do to... what do you think is wrong with hardcore
that's a question for
now?
Darren, really, because he's so involved in...
But he's kind of like more in his own unique sort of place where it's kind of like sort of EDM hard style, but sort of also hardcore.
Yeah,
so it transcends.
I don't really consider myself as hardcore, really. You know, I'm in a hard dance bracket. You know, I don't pinpoint myself. You know, some of my tunes I make at 150, 155, 160, 170. So I'm in there somewhere. But you know, a lot of people still call me happy hardcore, but I don't consider myself happy hardcore. You know, I was happy hardcore with 4C. Come the 2000s, that was, I guess, coined as UK hardcore. And now, you know, I sit somewhere in the hard dance bracket, but I don't really know where. So, yeah, that's my kind of take on that.
People have argued with it, but I've sort of said in this podcast that hardcore is currently dead. And people say, no, it's not. But there are enough people that are in the scene who say it is. Is it salvageable? And to salvage it, what needs to happen?
I think the problem is, but there's so much choice out there, and the problem you have, I mean, going back to the mid-90s, it was drum and bass or hardcore, maybe a bit of house, but house was, you know, early doors was backroom music at the time. Now you got 470,000 different genres to choose from, and kids. I mean, there's some amazing parties out there. Promoters that actually take the bull by the horns and do multi-genre parties. Bristol's a great example. I played one a couple of years ago, which was a bit of bass line, bit of drum and bass. I played obviously a classic hardcore set, and there's a bit of house in there, and the kids were jumping around to every single set. It was amazing. But generally, not everywhere is like Bristol. And
It's true.
And so the choices are, a lot of kids will go for the glam of maybe house. If they want anything really underground, drum and bass parties are busier, so they might gravitate towards that a little bit more.
Is there drugs an issue as well? Because young people aren't really doing drugs in the same way as young people did when we were all growing up. That's like a fact. So that's known. And that sort of heavy 170 stuff sort of requires drugs.
No, possibly.
I think you go to some events now, or you did like a few years ago, and people would be kind of like, ketamine would be their drug of choice to go out to, and it's not really a party drug, it's a laying a K-hole sort of drug.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I think it depends where you are in the country as well. Yeah. I mean, if you're at a gig in London, I guess it's going to be different to being in Doncaster or Sheffield or something, you know, different areas do different things. And I mean, as well, I mean, there's some classic clubs, hardcore clubs that are still hardcore clubs, and they haven't changed since the early 90s, and they're not particularly nice venues to be in. And if you're a youngster growing up and you can go into this lovely glitzy house venue with lots of lovely people, you know, dancing
well,
about
young people as well, aren't they? They're driven often by Instagrammy things and nice stuff, whereas in the past, when I used to go, I was like, I really like it being edgy.
Yeah,
we all did.
But everyone did.
I loved a shithole. I mean, Labyrinth, for example. I mean, if it's not, I never went to glitzy or glam sort of places.
Different era. I mean, the thing is, glam then was, a pop type club. I mean, there wasn't anything else to go to. It was either dingy or ritzy, and that was it. You know. So,
because my best nights out are those ones where you go to Labyrinth at like Dalston Lane, and you go in the toilet, and there'd be like 4 inches of piss from the back of the toilet to the front door. Yeah, it was an experience. You'd have to tiptoe. You're like, oh my god, there's a.
But that's the thing, is that you didn't know what the night was going to bring.
Yeah,
at any point, because of all of those factors, but for many other factors as well. And I guess if you're going to a nice, fancy, posh club, they're all sort of, nights are all sort of the same, sort of variation on a theme, but fairly similar and not that edgy. And
yeah, I think social media's changed everything as well, completely. So if that never happened, would things be different? Probably, but how they'd be different, who knows?
I'll tell you what, that was not a quick fire round. That was the longest quick fire round ever in history.
We've still got one more question though on this quick fire. I don't know where we're going to put it.
Promise.
What one thing would you change if you were king of the world, Darren?
Oh my gosh! If I was king of the world, what would I change?
I mean, I'd probably fuck COVID off, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd do that and probably get rid of. I'm not even that political, but I'd get rid of the government because they're shit.
Well, mine was going to be political, but it was going to be Trump. So,
Okay.
you know.
Right, so shall we wrap this up now?
Yeah, indeed. There you go. Now you know a bit more about the boys than when you started. That was brilliant. That was
It's your
it wasn't quick
first
fire, but it was fantastic. Yeah, we might have to make this an 8-parter.
Yeah. I can feel some edits coming on.
Paul, we were meant to be doing this as live. I'm not sure that's going to take down in the edit.
It's going
There you
dark
go.
outside.
So there you go.
Christmas
Thank you very
next
much. Remember, though, you can contact us with questions or memories of Force and Styles or the 90s rave scene. Hello at the 90s rave podcast.co.uk. We're also on all your social media channels, including YouTube, and there's loads of stuff on YouTube, so go and check it out.
We hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode so far. We at R.O.A.R would love to continue bringing you quality content. So if you could chuck some unwanted pennies in our direction and help secure the future of this project, that would be awesome. The address is gofundme.com/the 90s rave podcast. Our special guests on this edition of R.O.A.R, the 90s Rave podcast, are happy hardcore giants Force and Styles. As we know from Force's tribute to Slipmatt back in episode 2, they started off as sweaty, gurning ravers. So we're going to explore that. But tell us how you got into rave music.
I think it wouldn't be happy about the fact of a happy gurning.
Sweaty
would you?
gurning.
Definitely sweat. Well, do you know what? If I'm honest with you, if I'm being deadly honest, no, I didn't do drugs, but I probably did pull a few gurns just to try and fit in back in the day. I'm not even joking. Yeah.
It's actually interesting, the number of DJs who we've interviewed who just never did drugs, never interested. Why did you?
I think the music took me by surprise because I was 16 when I think it was a Rat Pack tape or a DVSD tape, and I didn't realise that Oscars, which was the club eventually I would start DJing at and obviously had my first rave at and meet Paul at, was even on my doorstep. It wasn't even on my radar until a few of my mates were like, yeah, there's this cool club down the road, they play rave music. I was like, oh, what's rave music? Anyway, we had a night out at Oscars, and I can tell you now, it was March 1992. I can't tell you the actual date, but I know it was in March. I know it was in 1992. And I wore my school trousers down there, a school shirt, because I had no idea what I should be wearing, or I'd never even been to a club before.
How old were you?
16.
Right.
And I just remember walking in, and I'd never seen or felt anything like it. You know, I was 2 minutes in the door and someone come up to me going, Ease Trips Whiz, didn't have a clue what they were talking about. And I was like probably the first one on the dance floor and the last one to leave. And then that was when I realised what sort of living for the weekend was, because that's all I cared about. That all I wanted to do was get back down there the following week and the following week and the following week. And yeah, I'll never forget those moments, but that's how I got into it.
And how come you never did drugs? I mean, because you were offered them within 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of my friends were doing them, but I just, I think there was part of me that was probably scared to do them because I was a shy boy. Didn't, you know, I probably still am a bit actually, but they just didn't interest me, and I think I got such a buzz from the music, I didn't need anything else, and that's probably why. Yeah, I didn't really.
One of them, eh?
It was one of those. Yeah, I haven't really got anything. It's bizarre because, like I say, most of my friends were doing Ease and all the rest of it, and
that's why he still looks 21.
Well, yeah.
And I just didn't want to do it.
God, my mates are idiots. I don't hang out with these annoying people who are gurning and sweating and talking bollocks.
No, I didn't actually. I didn't. It just that side of it wasn't for me. And yeah, I guess that's all I can say about that. But musically, I got so much feels from the music, I didn't need anything else.
And what about you, Paul? How did you get into rave music? You met through raving, but how did you get into the music?
Guys, slightly different for me. I started off as a mobile jock, and I had a decent sized sound system, and a guy that I knew who had a record shop in Clacton had asked me if I wanted to do the sound system at a local pub. And he said, "Oh, you can DJ if you want." And so I went in, put the sound system in, and I was buying tunes from him. And that was really the first time that I got into the music. The funny thing was, when I first got into it, I thought I'd missed it all. I thought I was really late into it, and it was like 91, I guess it was, because I hadn't been there in 89. I thought I'd missed everything. And but the funny thing was, I used to, little known fact actually, my mate used to be the driver for Ray Keith, and they used to live in Clacton, and I used to go off on a Friday night with my mate Mick, pick up Ray from Black Market, and then we used to go to Astoria and different places. I used to sit in the back of the car.
How much fun was that? That must be such fun.
And so that was my first really introduction to everything, and sort of mainly London club scene at the time, I guess.
Okay. And you both went to Oscars, which you said was where you met, and I've seen some footage of it, and it looks incredible. Like, I would have loved to have gone to that rave. Why does Essex have such a rich history in rave music? Because we've interviewed people, and it's like basically everyone's from fucking Essex.
I don't know. All the best raves were definitely in Essex. Well, at that time, at that particular point.
I think we got really lucky, didn't we? Because we had Oscars, and then literally 8 miles away you had 2-2s, and then there's quite often gigs at Essex Uni in Colchester. And then there was obviously Bury.
But what is it about Essex that you think created that?
I mean, I don't know, because do you know what? Probably it's probably the illegal rave scene, because a lot of it was around N25. There's some famous ones from Ipswich, past Colchester, etc. And maybe that's just where it all started, and that's how everyone got into it. And it was never quite the same up north at that time, I don't think. I mean, you had Hacienda and stuff like that, but very much localised, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we struck lucky, really, because it was on our doorstep.
Yeah. Really, really lucky.
So had it not been, who knows if we'd have gone down those channels. But yeah, very lucky.
But I think in Clacton as well, everyone was into the same thing. Being a small town, small seaside town, and everyone was into that music. It was literally everyone you knew was going to those parties.
Who were your favourite DJs at that point?
At the time, for me, it would have been Rat Pack and DVSD, simply because they were the two tapes that I had. So when they actually came and did, gigs there, it was like this. For me, this was just unreal. But at the time, I should point out that obviously I didn't know Paul, but he was a resident at Oscars at that time.
Yeah,
DJ Force back then.
Playing too early for when you go in.
Oh no, I was there, man. Don't worry about that. No, yeah, because the reason I know is because when we actually met for the first time, there was a rave in Colchester called Mind Warp, and Paul was selling tickets.
Raven, wasn't it?
Was it Raven? Was it?
I think it was Raven.
Okay,
sure.
And so I went and knocked on the door to get some tickets, and Paul's girlfriend at the time went to my school, so she knew that I was.
That sounds really bad, doesn't it?
What, Paul's girlfriend at the time? There's been numerous. Yeah, and she knew that I played keyboards and messed around with music, and she kind of sort of.
So did you rate him as a DJ? Was he one of the DJs that you liked? Given he was a resident.
Yeah,
be careful.
No.
So you must have been made up when you ended up working together.
Yeah. No, it was quite a big.
Well, little known fact. It was a big move. Little known fact. Darren actually worked behind the bar at Oscars.
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Did you wear your school trousers?
That's how. Well, no, because what happened was I was raving there for probably about a year. Excuse me, and then I managed to get a job behind the bar, but I really only got that job because I kind of wanted to get in with the promoters. Who the irony is that one of the promoters at the time who gave me my first ever gig down there, he's my agent now, and has been my agent for years. So he gave me my first gig, but yeah, that was kind of. Yeah, one of the main reasons I was a barman is because I wanted to sort of get in there and try and get some sets, which I did. And then obviously what happened was I was DJ Styles warm up. Forsey was obviously already playing there as DJ Force, but then they would put us on the flyer as residents, Force and Styles. So
that's just kind of how it happened.
That's how it rolled.
And the funny thing was, everyone just sees us as hardcore DJs. What used to happen back in those days as a resident, if there was a headliner on that was a hardcore DJ, we'd play drum and bass. And if it's a drum and bass DJ on as a headliner, we'd play hardcore. So we played everything back then, didn't we? Which turned out to be expensive at the time. But
it was, back down the record shop every day.
Hang on, no, because see, we've had Darren talk about not taking drugs, but we can't let False get away with it.
Okay, we were going to move on, but
I
no.
always slid past that question.
Yeah,
actually.
no, I thought you haven't answered that one. So, False, tell
Yes.
us about your messiest moments.
Well, I mean, mainly as a raver was during my indulging times. So very early 90s. Messiest moments. I mean, we used to have a lot of fun down at Oscars, particularly the all-nighters. They're always good fun. It was all really a blur, to be honest. I mean, it was. We used to have, I mean, everyone was doing whatever they were doing. Used to have a great laugh. But when the Force and Evolution stuff started, with more about the music, and certainly when we was doing all the Force and Styles stuff, it more ended up being a day job and far more serious at that point, wasn't it? And so raving days had kind of ended at that point. Everyone knows I like a drink. So, partying days were pretty much going out on the lash and having fun with various DJs around the world. But yeah, to answer the question, messiest moments. Oh God,
We know you've got some great stories. Just chuck one at us. Come on, don't be shy.
Give him the island one. That's a bomb.
Well, I tell you what. Quite funnily enough, Darren can tell this because when I got married in 2003, I think it was, he told his best man at my wedding, obviously, and he told this story at the wedding, didn't you?
I did.
Which was,
I mean, you can chime in because you'll probably have some added extras
because
for
my memory
it.
is better than yours.
Because your memory is, seemingly so. We were playing in Ireland, and I think it was United Dance Night. Would I be right? Or everyone was there. So Slipmat was there, Vibes, Dougal, us, and whatnot. And anyway, Forsey was having a few beers, and I don't know what else he'd partaken in that night, but there was obviously something was going on, and we were playing a back-to-back set. And I think I'd queued a record up, and then I turned around to ask him a question, and he was flat on his back in the DJ booth. So yeah, and I think it was that night, if I remember rightly, you'd gone from like 0 to 100 in like no time at all. So I don't know what it was you'd taken, but
What was it you had taken?
Well, that particular night was a Buckfast night. I couldn't tell
So you
you.
were just
if there's
hammered on, you were pissed.
but there would have been
other stuff
Quite
too.
There would have been
possibly.
other stuff.
I'm not going to deny there wasn't.
Listen,
because
Chris Brown was there that night. There would have been other stuff. Standard procedure.
His name comes up every single time.
Gets a lot of people astray.
He was the heavyweight, right?
He
The
was
ringleader.
he was the heavyweight. He was the heavyweight. But actually, I'll go back to a different story after this. If you remind me of it with Chris Brown. Yeah, so that had happened, and then there was another part of the night where what you doing, one arm press ups somewhere.
that was
in
part
the
of the
corridor.
story. Yeah.
The part it leads up to was we were sharing a room, right?
No. You were sharing a room with Rob.
Oh, that's right. And I came out of the room, and there was a pile of sick on the floor.
Slightly different to that. Do you want me to tell this story?
Yeah, you remember it better than this.
How can you remember it better? You were smashed.
So him and Rob were sat in the bedroom, just chilling out, and apparently, as you told it, all they heard against the door was every few seconds. There's just this thump against the door. So they opened the door, and there was me just like headbutting the door. And he's looked down. There's this pile of sick on the floor by the door, and that's really where the story culminated. Really, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think the punchline was we said, "Forsey, what is that?" And you went, "What me?" And it was like it's all over his feet. It was on the floor. It's like,
Smells of Buckfast.
It smells of Buckfast. Yeah, do not do Buckfast if you ever kids. If you're listening, don't do Buckfast. It's not good.
Where is the noise inside, but emotions die.
We also like when we interview twosomes to sort of explore their relationship. So, did you get on straight away?
Well, it was kind of a pre-organised thing because I think Paula had said to you, or said to me, "Oh, Darren's coming. He does music at school," and
Love
so
that.
we just got. Well, they used to do gigs at school. You see,
the Evolution crew.
the Evolution crew, yeah. So they used to do these lunchtime gigs. There's Dal, Paul, and James, and so that's how we got talking about it, I think, wasn't it? And the funny thing
what
was,
sort of band were you? What were the gigs?
There was 3 of us. We had 3 keyboard each. We'd stand up. We kind of originally modelled ourselves a little bit on the Pet Shop Boys. So
you must have got bullied badly.
We were the nerds. Yeah, we were the nerds.
there was no hamsters involved or anything.
No, this is where it changed, because when we went from being like the Pet Shop Boy-esque kind of band to the evolution, when we sort of discovered rave music. So we were on the stage. We used to do these lunchtime raves, right? So you'd have the main hall. You'd have us up, and we'd using the sound system from the school. My friend of mine, Gary, he'd stolen like an orange light that goes on the top of, like, you know, your JCB trucks and whatnot. So he'd got one of them. That was the only light we had, right? So we turned the lights off in the hall. We had this orange light going around and we were playing our rave music. But this thing got out of control, because initially it was just people from school who were coming at lunchtime, right? Next minute, our sort of rival school from down the road, they were all turning up as well and coming in. Next minute, people are smoking in there at lunchtime, right? And then obviously,
Brilliant.
but we were just there to sort of like give people the music that we were making, but it was actually turning into a physical rave. So yeah, it was
got shut down, didn't you?
It got shut down. Yeah, that's
As all good raves do.
That's brilliant. Oh, sorry, coming back to the school thing, is it true you had a teacher tell you would never make a career in music?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah, Mr. Rayner.
Mr. Rayner.
Does Mr. Rayner know
Yeah.
you are basically a pop star now?
No idea. Yeah, no, he did. He said to me, he was a history teacher, and he said, "You'll never."
What the fuck would he know then?
He said, "You need to get your head out of the clouds and, you know, think seriously about, you'll never make it."
I hope Mr. Rayner knows exactly who you are
Yeah,
now.
Mr. Rayner.
Look him up on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Tell him you might still make it as a musician.
Send him some of your tunes and your merchandise. Remember me?
I remember him. He was bald and had a moustache.
And so, how did you end up making music together? How did you join this already set up crew, the Evolution crew?
So that was it. So Paula, at the time, Paul's missus, she was at the school, so she knew we were doing these lunchtime gigs. Obviously, Paul was, it was like, you know, to be fair, as DJ Force, he was the local superstar DJ, really. Everyone knew who Forsey was. And it was kind of like, well, let's get together and try and make something. And
yeah, I think it's kind of because I didn't know how to play music, still don't. You know, that's what these guys were there for. So putting the two of us together, I knew what I wanted to hear at the parties, and they knew how to play it, and that's kind of how it happened. Really, simple as that.
that was it. Yeah.
And I still don't think there's been anyone as kind of talented as this one here with, you know, as a musician. I mean, I don't know in other scenes, but certainly within the hard dance scene anyway, because as you can tell with all the tracks, the piano lines and the music is just way out there compared to anyone else who was basically painting by numbers, a lot of people.
How did you start playing the piano? How did that come?
I had lessons. So I had a keyboard for Christmas, I think it was, when I was 10 or 11, I think. And yeah, I had lessons. Yeah, which weirdly I did not enjoy, and I wasn't very good at, because he was trying to teach me kind of Mozart and all the kind of theory and all of that, which just did not interest me. So as soon as he'd gone, I would just sit there and just make up songs, record them on cassette, and yeah, and that was
Makes
it.
me wish I hadn't given up the cello, really.
Yeah, you should have. Yeah.
I could do a banging walking in the air.
Well,
Like a snowman.
we don't have a set future for hardcore, so it could be cello core, right? Could be a thing.
Well,
You
I
never
will say
know.
that the cello community did not mourn my passing when I gave it up. But the thing was, because I had to give it up, because unlike you, who proudly wore that badge of nerd, I went to secondary school carrying this big fucking cello once a week, and I was like, this is not the vibe I want to give off when I go to secondary school. So I was like, no.
Yeah,
and
but
I was shit anyway.
Keyboard was still quite cool to do back then, even though we were sort of the nerdy ones.
You can be
but,
kind of versatile with a keyboard. I don't know about a cello.
yeah.
You know, I think
I
you
always
kind of-
wanted one of those keyboards with the straps, you know, so you could hold it like a guitar. One of those ones. That's what I wanted back then. But alas.
Who's the best DJ then, out of you?
well, honest answer, we were very different as DJs.
Diplomatic answer.
Yeah.
Well, we was. Yeah, we was. So Darren was probably more technical in respect of making sure everything was spot on and right. I'm at the time, would I be more inventive slightly? I don't know, but we DJ'd slightly differently. The benefit he had over me, I had a crap ear when it come to tuning. It's great now because you got mixed in key and all that kind of stuff. So you're basically doing it by numbers. But he could tell what was in tune and what wasn't, and I wasn't so great at that. So
I was definitely safer. I remember being safer. I'd pick the tunes that I knew were going to work together, whereas you take risks.
Yeah, I was pissed though.
So do you think somehow, like you as a pair, you sort of leveled each other out?
Yeah, that would help to make it work, definitely.
What else would you say went towards your success as a professional pair?
What
qualities did you both bring that worked brilliantly together?
Tunes. I don't, the same with anything. If we didn't do those tunes, we wouldn't have got the DJ. Simple as that.
But what about you as people, though? I mean, was one of you like more enthusiastic? Is one a motivator?
Do you know what? At the time, when you're making, which was literally every tune that we did at the time, wasn't it? Was deemed as a banger. You just like riding high.
You're just in the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, you literally, everything you do turns to gold almost, and we couldn't do anything. It sounds ridiculous, not being big-headed, but it was literally everything we did come out really well. But the thing is, it was very formulated, wasn't it? So we weren't deviating, apart from, obviously we try and chuck something like Apollo 13 in there and try and make it a bit different, but the formula was still the same. It's still piano, still kick drum, offbeat and stuff like that. One of the things I always say that I think done us in a little bit was the invention of bass in hardcore. If you list all those tracks, there's no bass lines. It's a little offbeat sound, but it certainly wasn't bass.
The kick drums were so big, it didn't need bass because there was no room for it anyway.
And claps were on the beat; they went off the beat, and so everything sounded. It's just the way it was, and everything was fairly similar. So it kind of worked. I guess the main thing was getting the piano line and the vocal.
So when you were putting together those tunes, would a lot of it have been based around a piano line, or would it have been based around the vocal? Very good question,
and that's dependent.
You see, this is why she's here. I don't know anything about making music.
Depending on who we was working with. So if Junior was involved, it's very much around the vocal, wasn't it? Because a lot of the time we'd have an idea of what he wanted to do. The only time that didn't happen probably was Paradise and Dreams, because I think we started that from scratch, didn't we?
Then he came in that night, didn't he, and just banged it out.
We was playing FIFA, weren't we?
Yeah.
And he goes, I've got an idea, boys. I was like, no, Jay, we're busy. And he goes, no, it's really cool. And he started singing this little thing, and then we started writing it, and, but a lot of the time with like Pacific Sun, Pretty Green Eyes, certainly. He had the vocal pretty nailed, and then everything was built around it. Other stuff like Heart of Gold and Field of Dreams. You'd do the piano line and get the music down. I'd write the vocal for it, and then we'd get Jenna in to sing it. And that's pretty much how it worked.
And in terms of you together in your relationship, do you ever? Is there anything that you don't like about the other?
That he still looks 21. It's really
annoying. Well, that would be annoying.
That would be annoying.
I'm going to pipe up here. I can't believe you are the same age as me. And the thing is, I didn't have a tough paper round either. So,
it's slightly annoying. Funny enough, I think, Chrissy, I sent you a video the other day from 1994.
Yeah.
A United Dance Temptation interview, and he doesn't look a lot different from that.
And I have to say, he doesn't
it's ridiculous.
Actually.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know what to say. I mean, actually, in lockdown, I've started to get some grows in my beard down. I've got a few around the side there, so it's on the way. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to bother, to be honest.
You could look like this one day.
I could do, but no, that's not peppery.
And have you ever got sick of the other? Did you ever get sick of each other? Has there ever been a point where you've Fabian Groove Rider, right? They said they never had a row. Not sure how much I believe that, but that's what they say. What about you two?
Do you know what? As such, I don't think we've ever had a row as such.
No.
But I think times got stressful, possibly when we were struggling to find what we wanted to do, when we was trying to find music. I'll be the first one to put my hands up. And so around that time, I struggled in the studio massively. And I'd go in, I'd be there for an hour or two and go, I can't do this. And I'd have to go. And it was, whether it was anxiety or whatever, who knows. But that was a real struggle when we tried so hard for so long to come up with something, and we just couldn't get it. And I think that was just, a stressful time. But never fell out about it. I just walked out. I just have to leave and just get my composure, come back the next day and try again.
Like artist style flounce.
Well, you were talking about writer's block earlier, and it's similar to that, I guess, isn't it? We just couldn't come up with something that worked or that we were happy with. A lot of the time, if ever we find those recordings, if you listen to the tracks, the content was actually really good. It was the production that didn't really work
around it, yeah.
And that's what we struggled with, whether it was moving studios, using different monitors, using different mixing desks, who knows. But
and at that time was also quite tricky because for me, where I was just bringing the content to it, as opposed to any of the production side of it, because I didn't know how to do all that. That was Paul's role, and I had my role.
It's all my fault.
No. But I was still, I guess, even though I knew it was tricky times and we weren't finding our sound, I was still kind of chomping at the bit to get there because I kind of knew we would, or I felt we would in the end. So that's when I kind of had to learn that side of it myself somewhere along the line.
There was that massive change as well, wasn't there, with kick drum. I think kick drum was a big part of it.
Yeah.
Because we used the same kick drum for most of the big tracks. So we knew how to set everything in there. And then we changed it to what was a softer kick drum. God, I hate using that word, but it was, wasn't it? Trying to get that slightly cleaner sound with all the rumblings of our first hardcore artist to chart and all that kind of stuff. You then try and start to leave it a little bit towards that slightly cleaner
But
element.
it's lessons learned because it's generally, even now, a dance record that crosses over because it's been made for the dance floor and it's still got a raw edge to it. There's not many producers out there, unless they're producing for pop people, an actual dance floor record gets big because it crosses over because it's massive, in that environment first. Whereas I think we probably were trying to make something that was
songs,
something that was going to fit on radio maybe and on the dance floor, and it wasn't working for us. It wasn't working.
And are you still close now? Do you see each other a lot? Do you talk a lot?
Well, not as much as we used to, obviously. He's travelling the world not now, but but we still keep in contact, don't we?
Yeah.
Phone up, see how each other is and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And so,
yes is the answer.
We definitely never fell out, that's for sure.
And why did you stop working together then? Why did you decide this is...
Well, there's an easy answer to that. During that late 90s, actually it would have been early 2000s.
It was early 2000s,
early 2000s. It got to a point where there was no money in it. Absolutely no money. I was just about to get married, needed to get a job. And I was working for a friend of mine who had a light and sound company. He was working with Craig. And so I'd go off and do the odd day with Craig, and then he'd be left to work in the studio. And I think you started working with Breezy a little bit at that point.
Yeah.
And then, so that's, I'm going back a little bit to the early Unique stuff. That when Darren started doing Unique, Feeling Fine and all those kind of things, that was...
Which I'm hoping you're going to karaoke for us later.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to laugh. I hope you've got an auto-tune plug-in.
there was, because the UK Dance label was doing really well at the time, I was spending a lot of time in the office working on that stuff. And again, he was left in the studio and you started doing the Unique stuff at that point, didn't you?
Yeah.
When he figured out he could write songs at that point as well.
Yeah.
Because you'd never really got involved in
I think
that side of
Feeling
things.
Fine was the first song I wrote, yeah.
How do you feel about Feeling Fine, by the way? Because it's one of those tunes, I think a lot of people were like, what on earth is this? And then other people loved it. How do you feel about it now, that tune?
Yeah, I'm proud of that song. I'm proud of that song.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
No, I'm proud of it. It was, I guess I was experimenting at the time, heavily into Oasis, those sorts of bands, which is why it was sung in the way it was sung. It was sort of like strained. I mean, let's be fair, I can't really sing. I just kind of shout it more than anything. And that's what I did with that song. But yeah, I was pleased.
I think you do yourself down, mate.
No auto-tune was used in that.
It wasn't actually.
Was it not?
No, but I remember what happened was I recorded it. I recorded it as a friend of ours called John Horrocks, who had a studio next door to us. He recorded it for me. and he tracked it like a million times. So I think I did about 20 takes, and by doing that, generally sometimes it kind of pulls the tuning in a little bit. And that's what happened with that particular song. So,
it seems like it was unavoidable that you had to go your separate ways because you needed Paul to get a job, and there was no money in it. Did you miss each other? Did you think, oh God, what a shame! I really wish we could still continue to work together.
I think for me, I was gutted at the time because of. I mean, you say, if we'd have got the right sound, it'd have probably carried on. And who knows what might have happened at that point? He might not be doing what he's doing now. You know, it's just the way life takes you and doing different things. I mean, if we'd have carried on producing together, the inevitable may have happened a few years later, and he might have missed the boat on the other stuff. So who knows? But I was gutted at the time, absolutely gutted. Even though I couldn't do much about it, tried, but it just didn't work out. So sometimes you just have to take it on the chin and move on.
And how did you feel about it at the time, Darren?
I think, being honest, because we were coming out with a bit of a sort of
delighted.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't delighted at all, because obviously it was a change of an era. But my eye was so on the ball, I just wasn't ready to. I wasn't ready to throw in the towel. I still felt like there was, I felt like it could get big again in whatever sense, and I wanted to be part of it. So I was just doing anything I could to sort of carry on making music, really. And I was still living at home, so I didn't have the bills to pay. I was living with my mum, so it was a different kettle of fish. But yeah, I was able to throw everything.
You were still living with your mum in 1999, even though you were the biggest producer in hardcore.
Yeah, I think I had a flat, but I didn't live in it.
Right. Why?
I know.
You're a bit of a mummy's boy.
You say that, but what people don't realise, they think, doing all those tunes and everything else, you're coining it in. We weren't.
No.
At all. Oh, right. So the downside was, yes, we were playing all the big parties. You got paid the least money for those big parties, and because we was together, we was getting.
Why?
It's just how it worked. No one had agents. No one had anything. Do you want to play this party, the biggest party in the country? Yes, please. How much are you going to give me? Right. It's basically like that. But furthermore to that is, we got paid the same wage as everyone else did, but we had to split it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's basically how it was at the time.
And there was no one had agents back then. So it was literally just us saying, it's basically like, you want to play on Helter Skelter? Yeah, absolutely. Here's 50 quid. Okay, it wasn't 50 quid, but, to be fair, not far off.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like it is now.
And the same with the studio as well. What's different now is every penny that we earn went straight back into the studio to buy new kit.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really happen now. People don't have to spend that kind of money. I know plugins cost a little bit, but not like hardware did back then. So out of the tunes, we didn't make a great deal until Pretty Green Eyes.
Yeah.
And that's probably the first time we actually.
So there's a misconception, really, then, that those 90s rave artists were, cornering it in at the time.
If you were lucky enough, Hicks had Bonkers. And if you were lucky enough to have the albums, obviously, like they went on to do with the Clubland album, you'd earn some money out of those. But normally, of a lot of the tracks, and certainly the DJing, there wasn't masses in it.
So you're 25 years on now. You're going to do some stuff for it, and we can talk about that a little bit later, perhaps. But do you anticipate that you will ever get back together? That there'll ever be a reunion of production, creation ideas between you two?
I wouldn't like to put that on him, to be honest. He's doing so well with what he's doing. Some things are left best untouched. But
I'd never say never. I'd never just draw a line in it and say no.
We've spoken about a couple of things like, could you do a piano line for this? Give that a go. But it's just so busy with everything. Taking a few days out to do. I'll be straight in there to give it a go. But finding the time to do it that works for both of us. Who knows?
That's it for part one of Force and Styles. Part two will be long very shortly. Stay tuned. We're going to be discussing plenty more, including more about their music career and the hardcore scene, loads and loads of stuff, and the current COVID situation. You can head over to our social media channels for updates, and why not check off, I can't be bothered. To be honest, we covered a lot of what we were going to cover in part two.
Part two is going to be very short.
Really short. But that's fine.
That's all right, though.
Yeah,
that's all right.
We've got a karaoke to do.
Oh, yes.
We're not really doing karaoke, are we?
No, we're not.
Didn't you make me sing it once before? I'm sure you've made me sing that.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, it might have been on Addiction or Eruption FM.
Yeah, it was up a tower block or something. No?
I'll have that on tape then.
There you go.
Yeah,
Let's pull that.
pop that in
there.
Right, this is Styles with his chorus of...
I suppose I bet they're feeling fine, really, aren't they?
God!
Honestly, I can't believe I'm doing this. Each time I see Hicksy's face, his smile is shining through. I can't help the way I feel, but it's all because of you. You stole me from my world and said that you'd be mine. And that's good enough for me, 'cause I'm on top, and now I'm feeling fine. Now I'm feeling fine. That's what you're getting.
That was pretty good, mate. Nice one.
Sadly, that's it for the first part of our fun and exclusive interview with everyone's favourite Essex boys. If you're able to spare a few of your English pounds so we can keep this project going, that would be legendary. You can do so at gofundme.com/the 90s Rave Podcast. And now we'd like to say thanks to some special people for donating to us generously. They are Colin Knapp, otherwise known as CK, Jay Mallon, Arthur Roski, Ica Green, Mel Casey, Halcyon and Jay Ransom, Mark Simmons, Ruben Whirlidge, Tom Evans, Tom Lloyd, Tristram Bentley and Ollie Wheeler. Thank you very much from everyone at R.O.A.R. Don't forget, we're also on all your social media channels. Search for the 90s Rave Podcast. Thanks and catch you later.